On this episode, we discuss some of our favorite spots in Bangkok to take the perfect photo.
So if you're a pro, an amateur, or someone that's just looking for a new place to shoot great pictures, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001, went to an all-you-can-eat sushi joint on Thong Lo, and have never left because technically I'm not finished yet.
I guess that's right. It says all you can eat, and you can eat more.
Uh-huh.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 17 years ago, fell in love with trucks driving past my house blaring political messages that I can't understand. So I never left.
All right, well, we want to say a quick thank you before we get started to one of our patrons. And Ed, this is our first corporate patron.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that is Thailand Starter Kit, which supports us at the show shout-out level. Stick around after we're done talking about some of our favorite spots in Bangkok to take photos, to hear why Thailand Starter Kit is a podcast and website you definitely should read and listen to, how they got around the rules of the Bangkok Podcast, and also why I'm jealous of the guy who started it all.
Wow, I guess we're hitting the big time, man. We're getting corporate patrons.
That's right, baby.
Anyway, you can learn about becoming a patron on our website. And of course, one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we talk about current events in Thailand and basically whatever else comes into our minds. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about what it's like living through an election season in Bangkok with thousands of speaker trucks, millions of huge posters, and endless campaigning by people in matching jackets.
I love those matching jackets. They're so darn cute. All right, well, on this episode, we wanted to talk about one of our favorite things to do in Bangkok, which is to take photos. Now, if you know anything at all about the city, you know that it's kind of a photographer's wet dream. Ed is a bit more of a photographer than I am, but both of us have spent lots of time over the years looking for the gnarliest, coolest spot to shoot. So we wanted to discuss some of the city's best places that we've found to get that one perfect shot.
Yeah, I'm really glad we decided to do this. I've been taking pictures in Thailand for a long time. I really wish I was fanatical about taking pictures all the time. I'm not. It kind of comes and goes. It's been a hobby of mine for a long time. But sometimes I just forget about it and I don't pick up my camera for like 6 months. And then other times I go on a run and I'm taking pictures all the time. But I do have pictures going back a long time. So I've taken certainly thousands of pictures in Thailand. So I do not consider myself an expert. I'm not a professional. I've never made money taking pictures, but I do like to do it. So I thought a good place to start would be to mention some obvious things and then talk about why you may or may not want to do it. So I'm not a big fan of tourist spots. I really just dread most tourist locations. But I got to admit, Bangkok's temples actually do afford a lot of cool photo opportunities. There's all kinds of weird designs, weird art, crazy Chinese guardian statues with like weird stuff going on. So I personally don't like Thai temples for the tourism aspect, but if you feel like taking pictures, I think Thai temples offer cool opportunities with one major caveat.
What's that?
All the photos have been taken before. So it's like if you're trying to do something unique, it's going to be hard to do that at a Thai temple because they are heavily photographed.
Yeah.
They've been photographed a million times.
A trillion times. Every angle, every
Yeah.
light condition, every weather condition.
Yeah, but like it's weird, taking pictures is strange because if you're kind of taking pictures for yourself or like your friends back home who don't know anything about Thailand, and then they see your pictures of a Thai temple, they will think it's cool.
Yeah, and if you're taking pictures by yourself too, temples are great because there's tons of opportunities for challenging shots. They've all been done before, but if you're just doing it for yourself, it's great practice, like setting up compositions and backgrounds and things like that.
No doubt.
Working with different lenses.
there's a lot of cool stuff in there, and along with that is if you want to go to a place where it's just easy to get cool photos, I would recommend going to Ayutthaya, which, as a lot of you probably know, is the ancient Thai capital that's about an hour and a half north of Bangkok. And essentially it's filled with Cambodian-style ruins of old temples. And there's just a lot of cool stuff in Ayutthaya. And it's fairly big with many temple ruins. And God, just walking around there, it's kind of hard to take a bad picture up there.
Yeah, I agree. And it's the only downside to Ayutthaya is that it's so bloody hot up there. And lugging all that equipment around too. But yeah, it's great up there. But I got to be honest though. I mean, it's a long way to go just to get some temple shots there. Bangkok doesn't have ruins like that, but they have similarly structured temples.
I think Ayutthaya is worth it because essentially the style of the temple is very similar to the temples at Angkor Wat, which is like one of the only tourist destinations I'm a big fan of. Like Angkor Wat is so cool in Cambodia, and essentially Ayutthaya is like it is a very mini version of Angkor Wat. So I think it's worth it. Now, once again, every picture that can be taken at Ayutthaya has already been taken. It's been photographed 1 billion times.
Yeah.
But like I said, if it's just for you and your family, and if they don't know anything about Thailand, they'll be blown away by your pictures of Ayutthaya. It's just a cool place. It's an easy, what's the right word for like a photo that's almost too easy to get?
A gimme.
Yeah, it's just like, it's so easy to take a good photo in Ayutthaya.
Right.
But you definitely won't be doing anything unique up there unless you're super creative and you find some angle that no one else has found. But
yeah,
good luck with that.
Well, bringing it back to Bangkok, and one of my favorite places to take photos has, I think, now been kind of, I wouldn't say ruined, but it's now so popular with blogs, social media, and Instagram and things like that everyone's down there now taking photos of it. But when I lived in this area 10 years ago, like, it was still relatively unknown, and that is the area of Talat Noi, which is just sort of on Charing Krung Soi 20, just sort of on the periphery of Chinatown along the river. And that's the neighborhood that has all the big engines and transmission blocks and piles of gears and rotors and wheels and stuff, and it looks like a junkyard.
It's Greg and I have spent a lot of time there. Greg used to live around there, so I've walked around there with Greg many times. As Greg is fond of saying, it does look like some kind of weird scene out of Blade Runner. And actually, so this area that he's talking about. So, Greg, officially, what's that area called?
It's called Talat Noi.
Talat Noi. Okay,
yeah,
so
little
it's on
market.
the edge. It's on the edge of Chinatown. It's very close to the river. It's not far at all from like the main temple area. It's not far from Hualampong train station. But essentially, this area is important to me right now because I mentioned this to Greg earlier. This year, a few months ago, some students of mine approached me and asked if we could do a photography exhibit in my faculty, and we never did it before. And so I agreed to help them organize a photography exhibit. And because they know I like to take pictures, they asked me to show some photos at the photography exhibit. And the problem is now I've got to actually take the photos. So the exhibit is supposed to be in like 3 weeks. And I have some old photos I could use, but I just wanted to do something new, some newer photos. And so I decided to shoot this area that Greg is talking about, this Talat Noi area. And I've been going there at night. I've been prowling around the back sois of Talat Noi after 10 p.m. and getting some cool low-light shots that I'm converting to black and white. So I'm trying to create a black and white, like weird, like neighborhood, like as Greg pointed out, it's just a strange neighborhood with it's kind of working class with a lot of machine shops and it's just an unusual part of the city.
Yeah, and you're doing it at the exact right time. Like going down the daytime is pretty neat too because it's an interesting neighborhood. But if you go down there at night, and like you said, if you get off into some of like the really small side sois, you can get some crazy shots in low light there because there's all kinds of creepy shadows and weird trees and piles of gears and stuff. And you showed me a couple of the black and white shots you took, and they're really neat. I want to make a movie one day where all those, like a stop motion puppet movie where all those gears come to life and fight as like robots or something. just sort of talking to my juvenile fantasies as a toy collector, but that's one of my favorite spots. But like I said, 10 years ago, hardly ever anyone was down there, but now it's just full of people. And I should also mention a place called So Hang Tai, which is like a 250-year-old Chinese courtyard mansion sort of in the bowels of this area that really is hard to explain to get to. If you know where it is, you can get there, but if you don't, good luck with that. And it's a very old mansion done with all like original teak wood, and it's got a 4-meter deep swimming pool right in the middle of the courtyard that is used to train scuba divers.
Oh, right.
They also make some of the best fruit shakes in Bangkok. So that's an interesting part of Talat Noi as well.
I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I think I'll head by there at night and see how it looks at night.
Yeah. And there's a couple of unique, like, iconic shots there. There's some abandoned cars, and there's a really neat tree with prayer flags wrapped around it, and it's also right on the river. So, I mean, you can't go wrong going down there. It's, like I said, it's getting a bit cliche now, but
tons of photo opportunities. Now, let me say something else, and this, I know this is a little bit obvious, and this has also been overdone to some extent. But if you've never done it before, in general, the sky around Bangkok is incredible. Like, if you spend any amount of time in Thailand or around Bangkok and you've just paid attention around sunrise or sunset, the cloud cover and the colors are really sometimes shocking around Bangkok. Now, to be honest, I think part of the reason has to do with like the air pollution. I think it creates, I think it creates different shades of colors. But if you Google Bangkok skies and just hit like images, Bangkok has incredible skies. So I think any rooftop, at the right time of day, with the right weather conditions, obviously there have to be clouds in the sky. So if there's a day where you've got some good cloud cover where it's not it's not overcast, so you have kind of broken clouds, and it's near sunset, and you can find a rooftop anywhere, you might get lucky, because Bangkok skies are stunning.
You know, one of my favorite places to go to sort of add the sky as an element of a photograph is any BTS station that is oriented east-west. If you go to the west side of the station at dusk, you can often look right down. Like, if you go sort of like to the end of the station, don't go down the stairs, but get off the train and walk all the way to the end where the railing is. You can get some really cool long lens shots down the tracks.
Cool.
And if you wait for the right moment, you can get the train there too. And if you've got a blazing red sunset behind the train, it looks really, really neat. Nice.
That is good advice, dude.
And another area that I like to go to is Phahurat, otherwise known as Little India.
Sure.
There's an old building called the Old Siam, and this place is great. We should cover it in one of our sort of hidden gems episodes, because it's like back in whenever it was built. I don't know the history of it, but probably, I don't know, the 50s or 60s. It was like a big shopping mall, and now it's kind of like this lesser sort of ghetto shopping area that's full of snacks and food and like these silk stores manned by 90-year-old women, like these sort of like strange shops. But across the street from there, on the, I guess, the south side, across the street, is a market called Phahurat Market, which is not a very creative name because the whole area is called Phahurat and this is just a market. But there's a really, really sort of neat rat's nest den warren of little streets and sois and shops, and most of it to do with clothing, like bulk cotton and bulk cloth of various kinds. And there's a really, really beautiful Sikh temple called, I hope I say this right, Gurudwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha. And it is like a 4 or 5 or 6 story temple that is really, really gorgeous. And I've been inside several times. You can walk around and go up, and you have to put a cloth on your head. And sometimes they hold religious services or playing music, and you're totally welcomed in. And oftentimes they offer you food or lunch. It's a great little community. but the area around that, like behind that temple into this Phahurat market, is just fascinating. And it's just like this tiny claustrophobic place just jammed with thousands and thousands of meters of bulk cloth. And it's a really, cool. Really cool place to sort of swing your lens around and see what you can get.
Sure.
Yeah, and you might also get some great Indian food too, which is never a bad thing. There's there's a few places that sell samosas from a street cart, and God, are they ever good?
Nice.
Yeah, so that's another one of my favorite places to go. Actually, anywhere in Little India is really good, but specifically around the old Siam and this Sikh temple is really interesting.
Cool. What else you got?
Another favorite of mine is the Tonbury Locomotive Garage, which is up by Sirirat Hospital, and this is where they keep the old 1950s era, 1940s era Japanese steam trains, the runs that sometimes do trips out to Ayutthaya or Samut Prakan or something like that for special occasions.
Right. So we took a bike ride past there, right?
Yeah, we've ridden our bikes past there a few times. Actually, I'm putting together a new walking tour for the Voice Map app, which is going to be coming out in the next few weeks. That goes right by there. But it's really cool because that's where they park all these old steam engines as well as the modern locomotives that are being fixed and stuff. And it's a totally dirty place. It's covered in grease and grime and there's all these stray dogs running around and a couple of these old gnarly toothless diesel mechanics, that have been working there for 60 years and they've got grease in their blood kind of thing. They're just, but it's.
I wonder if you can take a picture of them. That might be a good opportunity.
Yeah, but it's a very industrial place and it's a really, really cool area to go to. And behind there's also the Banbu community, which is a long, narrow, old sort of Muban community that's known for its handmade brass bowls.
Okay, here's a somewhat random thing, but it's actually very easy to find. Next to the Emporium on Sukhumvit is Benjasiri Park. So most people know Benjasiri Park.
Yeah.
And some people go there to work out. And if you go to the back of Benjasiri Park near Emporium, there are Thai guys that are playing takraw. Takraw is this Thai sport where they kick like a bamboo ball, or what's it made out of?
Yeah, it's wicker rattan or something like that.
A wicker or rattan ball. And
I myself play with a human skull, but
yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's an unusual sport, and they sometimes do crazy backflips and wild stuff with this takraw ball, or I don't know what you call that thing.
The craw ball, yeah, the craw.
I guess it's
ball
a ball.
Craw.
But anyway, if you wanted to get and take some action photos or high speed photography, that would be a unique thing. Plus, it's Thai. It's a bit of Thai culture, and of course, there's pictures of that around. But it would be a little bit of an unusual picture for a tourist to grab.
Yeah, most of the times, weekends. They're in the late afternoon, sort of between 4 and 6 p.m. kind of thing there. But you got to bring a high-speed camera or make sure your shutter is high-speed because, you're going to have to get a high-speed thing going to get someone doing a flip in midair, kicking a ball over a net. You're not going to just be able to grab that with your average, off-the-shelf camera.
Yeah, maybe not, yeah.
Yeah. I like going to that place. It's really neat. I just hope, whenever I go there, I'm hoping, whenever I go to comedy clubs and see a comedian, I always get called on. I always get picked on. And it's my nightmare scenario that I'm going to be taking photos of a takraw game and they're going to go, hey, why don't you try? And I'm just going to go and break my back trying to kick a ball over or something like this.
Hey, why don't you play? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, come on, Farang. And I'll be like, oh, okay. Just have my femur poking out of my leg or something.
That's funny. So, Greg, you know more about this than I do, but there is some cool architecture in Bangkok. So if you're into taking architectural photos, Greg, you must know a few places.
Yeah, there is a couple of good places. Of course, we should mention the newest, shiniest building in Bangkok, the Mahanakhon Tower. That's the one that looks pixelated with the little blocks taken out of it.
And it's now the tallest building in Thailand. Is that correct?
I think it's either that one or the new ones at Icon Siam, but those are condo buildings, and they don't have a rooftop bar, so they can't compete with that. But you could close your eyes and take awesome pictures from the top of the Mahanakhon because it's 360 degree views of the city in any direction. So anytime at sunset you're up there, that's going to be a great place to do it.
No doubt.
And also that's not taking architectural pictures, but standing at the base of that building looking up is also pretty neat too, because with the right lighting and the right post-production, I mean, that's right out of Blade Runner, right?
That's another gimme photo.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So that's cool. There's also the one of my favorite places to go actually is down by photographing the Bumipon Bridge. The Bumipon Bridge that crosses the neck of Bangkok or Prapadang, sort of that goes across Rama 3.
Oh yeah, that is a very cool bridge, yeah.
Yeah, have you ever been up close to that place, like underneath it?
I mean, I've driven underneath it many times.
It is huge. It's one of the biggest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's giant. That's right. It is a giant bridge, yeah.
Yeah, so you can get some really neat angles down there, just sort of pointing up, and just the scale of it is massive. And if you can get something in the shot too that's like a person walking or a kid playing football or something, like Agreed. It's just huge. So that's a really neat one too.
Agreed. So have you ever heard of I don't know much about Bangkok architecture, but have you ever heard of this building called the Pearl?
Yeah, but remind me.
Yeah, basically the Pearl, I'm not even sure what I just happened to read an article about it, but I'm not even sure what the building is used for. But it's basically kind of a I don't know, what would you call it? A pickle-shaped building.
Well, a butt plug. It's a butt plug.
Well, that was a little bit more descriptive than I wanted to be. But yeah, it's kind of a cool looking building, and I think it's supposed to be similar to a building in London. So is there like a similar building in London that they call the Gherkin? Is that right?
Yeah, that's the nickname. I don't know what the real building is, but the London one is called the Gherkin.
Well, that makes sense.
This one is called the Bangkok Gherkin.
That makes sense because they are both kind of pickle-shaped. Anyway, it's called the Pearl, and it's I think it's a unusual building for Bangkok. Like I've never seen a building like that here.
Yeah, in fact, like I used to live in Ari, so I would have noticed that being built. But then I moved out, and I didn't go back for several years. And then I was back one day, and I sort of like saw this thing, like, whoa, it's really neat. It's definitely a standout building.
Yeah, and it's close to close to Sunup BTS station.
Yeah, it's pretty close to there. Other than that, though, unfortunately, that area is not too attractive. It's kind of dusty and trafficy, but that's a really neat one. And one other building I got to mention is the G Tower building on Rama 9, close to Fortune Town. And that is all. I mean, it's a building is literally shaped like the letter G, and I like to joke that I own it, and the next ones to be built are R, E, and then another G.
Now, is this a new building? Is this a new building, or has it been there?
It's been there probably at least a year,
okay.
Probably more than that. But it's a giant letter G. Just go to Google and type in G Tower Building, Bangkok, and you'll see it. But that provides some unique angles as well. It's very communist looking. It's very square. But that's a cool one too. And that area, I think actually over the next like 5 years or so is going to become quite interesting because they're building a lot of big new towers there. And I don't know the current status of this, but that's also where they're going to have the Rama 9 super tower.
That's right.
Like 150-story building or something like that.
Yeah, there's supposed to be an insane super tower there. Yeah, that's a crazy part of town that it's exploding over there.
Yeah. But, I mean, those are just a few of my favorites that I noted down. There's endlessly more ways and places to see in Bangkok, and that's what's so great about it.
No doubt Bangkok is a great place to take pictures. And, another option besides taking our advice is there are a number of tours designed around photography. So, Greg, I don't really know much about them, but you're kind of the tour guy. What advice do you have?
Well, yeah, there's some. I think it's a great idea. I mean, if you're a budding photographer or a fan of photography, you can join a tour, a specific photography tour. And there are a couple of names that have popped up over the years that I've kept hearing. One of them is Aperture Tours. Another one is Tim Russell Photography. Another one is a guy named Nick McGrath. He has a website called BangkokPhotographyWorkshop.com. And they like personally escort you to interesting places of the city that provide the best shots. And these guys are pro photographers, so they would know.
Yeah,
So
Greg and I are just rambling amateurs. But yeah, there are pros out there. There are pros out there who can walk you around and show you exactly where to take great pictures.
That'll be a great shirt. It's the Bangkok podcast logo, and then underneath just says "Rambling Amateur."
Rambling amateurs. That's exactly what we are.
Yeah, but those are some good ones to check out, and they're really cool too because it just takes the pressure off of trying to find a good spot. You just say, "Hey, take me to your favorite spot," and off we go. So there's a few of those to check out. So yeah, that's it. We just wanted to talk a little bit about our favorites, and man, I don't do it enough. And every time I get out with a real camera, like I always got my phone with me, but every time I get my Canon out and I happen to take some nice photos, I'm like, God, I got to do this more often. Like it really is such a great city for it.
It is, for sure.
All right, well, let's get into some love, loathe, or leave, where one of us surprises the other one with a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here, or hate so much that it makes us want to leave forever. And this week it's my turn. And this is a weird one, Ed, but it's very specific to me, and it really, spoiler, I loathe it. So I want to see what you think about it.
Okay, I'll try not to be biased by your loathing.
Yeah. Now this one comes from a listener named Maggie who recommended it to me, and she told me what it was, and I was like, yeah, that is something that I have to deal with all the time.
Interesting.
So this is what it is. A lot of times when you eat stew or soup, and when it's made in Thailand, and it's meat, pork or beef or whatever, a lot of the times the bones are left in. And they're like chopped up, and just like you just get big chunks of bone in the soup. And I hate this because it ruins the experience for me. I want meat, and I want soup, and I want vegetables. I don't want to have to pick bones out of my food. What do you think?
Interesting. Okay, so I'm in this big non-meat eating phase, but I've spent many years eating meat in Bangkok, and I do know exactly what you're talking about. I'm going to go loathe on it with you, although maybe not as much as it seems to bother you. The problem is it's really like small pieces of bone or splintered bones or broken bones. I don't mind like one big bone in soup.
Right, yeah, like I'll hold it and then I'll eat the meat off it.
Yeah, you can just bite meat off it or shove it aside. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like, sometimes there's just like broken pieces of bone and like bone splinters.
Yeah,
and it's just left right in the soup. It's really weird. I feel that there's, this is somewhat related to this issue. I feel there's something about Thai food where they don't mind putting stuff in there that's not really edible. Like this happens in like tom yum and tom kha, where there'll just be like, there'll just be stuff in there like galangal chunks that you're really not supposed to eat.
Right, right. That's a really good point because we've all known people that have come here and you've got to say, oh, you've got to try the tom yum goong. And they take a big spoonful of like ginger and galangal and onions or something. And
they try to eat everything like lemongrass, like hunks of lemongrass that are not really edible.
Right.
So it's something weird. Like there's something weird about Thai soups where it's kind of normal to have stuff in there you're not supposed to eat that you have to pick around.
Yeah, but I don't like it. I want to put a bowl of food on my plate and I want to be able to eat it without worrying if I'm going to puncture my gum. Yeah,
I'm with you. It is. Yeah, it would be like a nightmare if you had a kid who you were worried about like ingesting a bone. Like it would be a nightmare.
Yeah. Loathe for both of us, I guess, on that one.
All right, I got to go loathe on bone chunks in soup. We're going to go loathe. We're loathe on that.
Thanks for that, Maggie.
So, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Thailand Starter Kit for lending us their support at the show shout-out level. And Greg, what did you find out about TSK?
Well, as you know, Ed, and as we're very proud of, actually, we don't have any ads on the show.
That's right.
But Thailand Starter Kit, they found a loophole in our policy. You see?
We have a loophole?
Well, apparently. So if you're not aware, Thailand Starter Kit is a great website that does exactly what its name implies. It gives you a really solid window into every aspect of living in Thailand if you're new here, from visas and working to investments and even moving furniture. And get this, they even have a podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All this was started by a guy named Karsten. And, I got to be honest with you, I would really like to dislike Karsten because check this out. He's a tech geek. He loves video games. He speaks multiple languages, including Thai.
Annoying.
So he's already awesome.
Annoying.
And on top of that, he grows a fantastic beard.
Whoa.
So I really would like to dislike him because he's so talented and cool, but he's just such a nice guy. I've met him a bunch of times. He's come to a couple of our meetups.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he's the Thailand starter kit guy. So Karsten was listening to the show, and he's like, well, see, this is how smart he is. He says, well, if they don't sell ads, I'll become a patron.
Clever guy.
So now we've got to mention his name. It's right. So this shout out is not for Karsten himself. It's for Thailand starter kit. So he found a loophole.
Wow. What a clever dude. He got a little bit of free advertising, but he sounds like a nice guy, so that's all right.
Yeah, he's a great guy. The podcast they do is called Brewed in Bangkok, which it's really cool. It doesn't come out too often, but they interview interesting people from all walks of life in Bangkok, and it's really, really good. It's hosted by a friend of Karsten's, another really nice guy named Siddhant, who has been to a couple of our meetups as well. So thanks, guys. Thanks for supporting the show, becoming a patron, and finding a loophole. And like Ed said last week, we don't care where the support money comes from. If you're a corporate sponsor, we'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take your money.
Yeah, Thailand starter kit.
Anyway, before we wrap up, we'd like to give a special thanks to all of our lovely patrons. As you know, as Greg just pointed out, we don't run ads or have official sponsors. So we really do appreciate the support we get from all of our patrons. If you want to learn more, just head to bangkokpodcast.com/support. And if you want to get in touch with us, it's easy. Bangkok Podcast on all social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We are very polite, and if you write, we will answer.
Yeah, baby. You can also find us online, where we post each episode and carry on conversations with our listeners. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter if you'd like, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you back here next week.
See you next week. I feel like my levels are too low.
Well, it happens when you get older. Just take some digital testosterone. You'll be good.
Right. The gain knob on my input device is like too sensitive. You know, if I like turn it up slightly, then it starts peaking.
You're throwing me all kinds of immature joke material here, talking about your sensitive knob, low levels. It's dangerous with someone in my maturity level.
I was going to say, sometimes I forget who I'm talking to, you know?